So this would be a quick overview on my Imperial Japanese rifles, sabers, and bayonet. Starting from the top, I have a Type 38 Arasaka, two Type 99 Arasakas, one that is earlier production and one that's later production. I have a Type 32 Heavy Cavalry Saber. I have two Officer Dress Sabers, and I have a bayonet for a Type 99. So go ahead and start with the Type 38. This particular Type 38 is in pretty good condition. They're used from 1906 until the end of World War II in 1945. They used a 6.5 millimeter cartridge with a 5-round internal magazine. Their production largely ceased in 1941, 1942. There was one arsenal that was producing it until 1944, until it was taken over by the government, and over 3.5 million of these were produced. Starting with the butt, you can see that this one's in pretty good condition. Like all Arasakas, it has a 2-piece butt here. It's actually pretty useful because a lot of times you get stock damage right here where the butt plate is, and it's a lot easier just to replace this part than try to do a stock repair. It also makes it stronger. You can see the grains of the wood go in a slightly upward angle, which makes it stronger. You can see this one has its dust cover. Right here on the receiver, I put some chalk in it, but that's a marking that it's a Type 38. And you can see that the Imperial chrysanthemum have been ground off a bit, but some remnants of it still remain. It does have an adjustable rear sight. And this one's overall in pretty good condition. They're not import marked, so I assume that they probably came to the US not too long after the Second World War. So moving on to the Type 99s. The Type 99 was produced from 1939 until 1945. This used a 7.7 millimeter cartridge, which was a upgraded cartridge from the 6.5 millimeter. These also took 5 rounds in their magazines. They produced just over 3 million of these, and the 7.7 round was just seen as a more effective round over the 6.5. Both of these rifles, the Type 38 and the Type 99, were used pretty heavily during the Second World War by Japanese troops. They're never able to fully phase out the Type 38, so they kept using it until the end of the war. You can see this Type 99 is in pretty good condition. Unfortunately, it had a bunch of tape wrapped around them, but I was able to get a lot of the residue cleaned off. But you can see it's in pretty good shape. You can see that the bolt here is definitely an earlier production with a lot more care taken in the milling of the receiver. You can see the top of the receiver here is marked with Type 99, and the chrysanthemum was pretty badly butchered on this one. But overall, it's in really good shape. It has a lot of the original finish, and the stock's in good condition. It is missing the cleaning rod. But I believe I do have one somewhere, I just can't seem to find it. Moving on to the second Type 99, this one's a much later war production. You can see that it's just a bit more crude with some marks in the stock, as well as the milling of the receiver and the bolt. You can see the difference here. This one's also marked Type 99. You can see the chrysanthemum on this one is intact. The stock is definitely a bit more crude. And looking at the muzzle, you can see the front sight here doesn't have the sight protectors. You can see it has the original sling on it. It's like a tarred canvas. The sling on this Type 99 is a reproduction leather sling. The actions on these are actually pretty strong. The Arasakas were known for having very strong actions, and even later war versions, their receivers are some of the strongest World War II rifles out there. You can see that this one's in really good shape. You do have to depress the magazine to put the bolt forward. Now the dust covers do rattle a bit, which can be problematic, especially in a jungle environment, and tend to do a little bit more harm than good when dirt and dust does get underneath them. This Type 9 has a pretty smooth action as well. And despite being later war, this one actually has a pretty smooth action too. So looking at the receivers of these rifles, the first rifle here, the Type 38, was produced in the Nagoya arsenal, and it's Series 26. So the Nagoya arsenal produced Type 38s from 1933 until 1940. So based on the series number, I'm going to guess it was probably produced somewhere around 1937, perhaps 1936, just kind of midway through its production numbers. The first Type 99 was produced in Nagoya arsenal as well. It's a Series 1, so guessing that it was probably produced in 1939 or 1940, early on in the war. And the second Type 99 is a Kokura arsenal, Series 24. So I'm going to guess probably late 43 to 44, especially considering its condition. So moving on to the Sabers, you can see this first one. This is a Type 32 Heavy Cavalry Saber. It was used both by cavalry and regular army NCOs during the Russo-Japanese War. You can see the blade on this one's in really good condition. It also has a scabbard serial number that matches the saber. A lot of times they can get mismatched. And there's just some beautiful checkering here on the grip. Now this particular saber, after measuring it, it measures 830 millimeters, which means that this one was for cavalry NCOs. The regular Army NCOs got a slightly shorter version of this that measures at 770. So moving on to the next set of sabers, both of these are officer dress sabers. They're made out of aluminum, so it's not made out of steel. So it's not really suitable for use in combat, though they are sharpened. You can see that there is some variation here in the scabbards. One has 2 rings, one has 1 ring. You can also see that the fuller on the top blade here stops just past the midway point, whereas this bottom one stretches all the way to the end. I'm not an expert on Japanese sabers, so I'm sure there's a difference between these two, similar to the heavy cavalry saber here with its length, used for cavalry versus regular army troops. So if you know anything about these, feel free to drop them in the comments. You can see this one has 2 screws in the grip, so it's kind of in rough condition. It does have a straight handguard here. Earlier versions would have the quill here. And you can see that the blade's in actually pretty good condition. Same with the scabbard. Zooming in a bit here, you can see there is a manufacturer mark. So this was made in the Mukden arsenal in Manchuria. This is probably a mid-war bayonet, as it doesn't have the features of a of an early war bayonet, but it's also not as crude as a late war version. So overall, in pretty good condition. So hope you enjoyed this video on my Imperial Japanese collection of rifles and edge weapons. If you have any questions about these items, feel free to drop them in the comments. I should have some more videos coming out soon of collections as well as new projects, so if you'd like to be alerted to those, feel free to subscribe and sign up for alerts. And as always, thank you for watching.